Welcome to the Toronto Until Blue Jays podcast. I'm Steve Artabello with Anthony Harris, Theo Giordano. You can find our website, torontountilt.com. You can find our Twitter at Toronto Untilt. You can find our YouTube, where this video will be posted, Toronto Untilt. And of course, you can find our audio anywhere you listen to podcasts. That's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Bleaker, Anchor, all of the things. Like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. And this week did not go anywhere near the way it should have. I know normally we break down every single game, but talking to the boys before this, I guess it felt a little bit more important to talk about the feel of last week. They still have a chance to get a win out of this Mariners series. And I don't know, do you boys want to just get right into a little bit of the Angels stuff before we start talking about the Mariners? Because that's been a mess these last 2 days. Like the Angels series, it would have been great if you could have won that game where Berrios laid an egg. But here's the thing. He's been phenomenal in his first 2 starts with the Jays, and every pitcher's going to have a start. Like, that's how I feel. I don't know about you guys, Theo, Tony, but that's kind of how I feel about that Angels series. Is that was unfortunate. The Mariners thing, though, is unforgivable.
I was actually about the Angels series. I was more like upset about the first half of that doubleheader.
Yeah.
That game felt worse. Because it was always hanging in the balance we could have got, and you just couldn't win it. And
well,
then
that was the thing. If you could have won that game, then you didn't have to beat Ohtani, who. And another infuriating thing is Joe Madden, or like if you're a Jays fan, remember him with the Rays, and he's got a cleanup hitter showing bunt, and it's just. There were so many Rays things that happened because that looked like a minor league lineup with Shohei Ohtani, and they still managed to get that through, which was infuriating. That brought back a lot of like bad Tropicana memories for me. I don't know how you guys felt, but like there was a lot of just like really bad Jays memories there.
There was a lot of memories in general, like West Coast memories with this Jays team. Feels like whenever they go out there, it's just a shit show, and everything was just being reminded how quickly that there are flaws with this team, and you know, after what happened last week, how we ended last week, to have a week like this was just so demoralizing.
Yeah, we had said it last week that was the thing I kept harping on, was they have to win both of these series. You cannot give games away. And I don't know, do you boys have anything else to say about the Angels before we just tear into what the hell happened in these last 2 Mariners games? Tony, do you have anything you wanted to add?
We talked about how like we might not see Jared Walsh. He's hurt. And he came back after the first day, and he was a productive player for them. So just our luck.
Yeah, that was not ideal. But again, you should have been able to beat that team in that situation. You know what I mean? They sold at the deadline. They have one of the best players in baseball, but he's basically it. And they can't win with Shohei Ohtani doing what he's doing. That was frustrating. But again, it was more forgivable than what happened these last 2 days with the Mariners. Because that first Mariners game, like last night, was a disaster. The Saturday night game where they just get pumped and Springer gets hurt. That first game, I don't know about you guys, it felt like every inning there was a chance, like there was a run left on, like a guy that should have scored, some wild thing happens and he doesn't. You know what I mean? You have Teo getting striked out on a strike that's not a strike, and then Gurriel clears the bases, and it's like Teo's fast enough that he might have, like, you don't know if he can, but again, there's one less out. It could potentially keep the inning going. Like, everything about that game was infuriating, and then, of course, it ends with a Brad Hand bases-loaded walk.
It was like the first time I saw the Blue Jays like complaining about the strike zone consistently. Like everyone was like, "What the fuck's going on?" Like the last 2 games have been terrible, and we've had bad strikes out through the year, but like, these were like key moments where we were just getting fucked out of calls. And
well, yeah, I remember in the Angels series there was one in that first half of that doubleheader. It felt like that just wanted to get out of there because there were pitches in the other batter's box that he just kept calling strikes. Like he was just like, "No, boys, I'm going home. I got a reservation or something. This game is ending." Ugh. I don't know. That was
Yeah, and if we're talking about this series, the worst part about this, because we've had the bullpen issues, we've been very aware of them. When you lose with your 2 best guys, back-to-back days where they just look like absolute shit. Like Simber the first game, like he's pulling a Chatwood where he's just walking everybody. And then you have Richards just serving up fucking soft serve ice cream down the middle. It's just like, I don't give a fuck what happens this offseason. Take the list of the top relievers, give them whatever money they need, because this is just like, we can't have this next year. This team's too fucking good to have this shit happen every day. At this point, it's happening like multiple times a week.
Well, we were joking around about Liam Hendricks getting bombed the last couple of nights, but that was a guy the Jays were in on. And now that you think of it, like, and again, if Kirby Yates doesn't hurt, like, there's so many things that happened to this bullpen where it was just, you can't, you expect attrition and relievers are volatile to say the least, but they had so many things go wrong this season. Then they remake the bullpen on the fly, and then Adam Simber turns into like vintage Darren O'Day, who's just unhittable. And he finally has his slip up, and it comes at the worst possible time. Not to mention, you have that, like, just the fact you can't blame him for going for the ball because that's instinct. And then you have him tip it, and Semien can't get to it. And then me and Buck agreeing, which is something that doesn't often happen, but I'm screaming, how does the ump call that interference? Because he didn't see him. And then followed by Buck yelling at on the broadcast, he didn't even look at him. Like, it's just, there were so many parts about that game. Just so many parts about that game where it just felt like, oh God, they're cursed.
And it was like kind of foreshadowed. I think in the 7th inning, the same kind of thing happened to Ray, where he let a ball go. And they're like, that's a smart thing. Where the instincts say to get that. And then right after, Simper goes after a ball, and it kind of fucks up the inning or fucks up the game. And we have to also talk about Brad Hand too. The Tim Mayza injury has been so much more important than we kind of figured it'd be.
Well, we had talked about it, that he was basically doing the Brett Cecil thing where he had been really good since the beginning of June in that year that, remember in 2015 when Brett Cecil was the best reliever the Jays had. That was basically what Tim Mayza was doing. And then he got hurt, but it was like, okay, well, Saucedo's been good. And like, you have other guys, you just acquired Brad Hand, and Brad Hand's been a bit of a mess. He's been better lately, but oh man. Like, he seems to be a guy that the sticky stuff ban has had a serious impact on.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even just throw a strike. Like, that's all we asked for in that moment. Like, it's not like we gave up a grand slam. It's like, okay, he walked him on 4 fastballs, not even close to the strikes.
And Tony, we were talking about Romano, Brad Hand. What was Kellenick's numbers against lefties? You said it in the group chat.
Terrible.
439 OPS going into that game.
And that's the thing, like, I get it. He's a top prospect, but like, how little confidence does Brad Hand have that he's not going at Jared Kelenic right there? A rookie lefty who can't hit lefties yet in the big leagues. He's probably done it in the minors. I know Jared Kelenic, if you don't know who he is, he was a massive piece of the Edwin Diaz trade. He was the one that the Mets, he was a guy that nobody thought the Mets should ever trade because he's one of the best prospects in baseball and he's the future of the Mariners. But it's left on left, and this is a guy who's supposed to be a closer. This is a dude you went out and acquired at the deadline and exactly walks him on 4 pitches. And it's like, how do you do that to a rookie left? Like, this is what I mean about everything feeling cursed.
I mean, he's always kind of struggled against lefties, even in the minors. But it's just like, yeah, exactly. It's just throw a strike. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Is Saucedo or Loogie now? Like, what the fuck? If we need
Mesa's supposed to be back soon, I thought.
Elbow inflammation, so hopefully he's back soon. We'll see how healthy he is, because you never know with stuff like that.
And if he comes back, is it like a Baraki where he comes back and he's never the same? That shit happens very often.
Well, he did come back once this year already, so hopefully. But
actually, yeah, he came back. I think he got hit the first time he came back, and then was immediately that's when the streak started, where he got locked in and was really good.
Yeah.
But God, that was just that Friday game. Everything went wrong, and you lose by 1 run, and it's like, okay, this sucks. But yesterday is supposed to be the big day, and it's like, yes, Yusei Kikuchi's been really good, but you got Ryu on the mound.
Well, we didn't even talk about that the Valera play.
Oh my God! Could someone tell me they've seen an angle where he's actually touching with the glove, not the fucking string, because the string doesn't count apparently.
Well, again, this is another time I guess I agreed with Buck, just being like, how does this happen? Like, he's safe. You kept hearing him basically yell, like, he's safe. He doesn't touch him, like all the different angles they showed. And that's somehow, this is what I mean about it feeling cursed when you go into that series with the Mariners. And the Mariners are the team that has the awful run differential. Like, the Jays and the Mariners are like the inverse team. The Mariners are winning in spite of everything. Exactly. They have a great bullpen, a terrible offense, and their starting pitching gets them by. Whereas the Blue Jays have this unbelievable offense, one of the best in the big leagues, a terrible bullpen, and then it's like you can trust Robbie Ray, and generally you can trust Ryu, but there's just, there's been so much volatility.
Do you guys know, like, where does Seattle rank defensively? Because it feels like they've made like every play the last 2 days.
They're probably good.
We've hit like a lot of hard balls and just everything. It's a lot of bad luck on our end mostly, but like they've made every play so far.
I know that they're like the left side of the infield is pretty damn good between Seager and Crawford. Like those two dudes are very good defensively. It's just so frustrating. Like Kalenic's supposed to be a really good center fielder. Like they are supposed to have a decent outfield. Like they're supposed to be an okay defensive team. Or better than okay, but it was just inverse teams, the team that's winning in spite of everything, and the Blue Jays that seem to always hand it over, right? Like the Mariners win these close games, and the Blue Jays seem to lose them. That's the way this season is felt. And again, we talked about it going into this. It's like the Angels aren't a good team. They're behind you. They're technically chasing you, and you had to beat the hell out of the Mariners because that's the team you're actually in a race with. And we kept saying they should fall out. They should fall out, but you have to do it yourself if you're the Blue Jays. And so, we have the Breivik, like we have the heart-crushing first game. And then yesterday happens where, can anything more go wrong now at this point? Like we were talking, so George Springer's hurt. And we all just like, Theo, what did you send to the group chat? Immediately.
I said something before the messages that we're going to talk about now, but I think I said that how long are the Blue Jays going to allow Springer to hobble around before they IL him? Because this happened. I don't give a fuck what he says or what the team's saying right now, where they're saying day to day, he's going to be okay. Last time we heard this shit, it was the same kind of thing where it's like, he's going to play through this. He's going to DH for a while, and he's looking like shit hobbling to first base, but, he's fine. And
but he hit a 470-foot dinger, so it's okay.
Yeah, so how is that going to happen again? Are we in the same kind of position? And if we are, and if we keep falling out of this fucking race, what's the point in doing that?
And the thing is, it's not like there's anyone you can really call up by DL. Like it's just they have so many problems at this point.
Well, you know who they just brought in? They brought in Malik Smith.
Really? When did they claim Malik? When was Malik Smith?
They just let me get it. Where
Seattle waive him?
We got Ben Nicholson Smith.
They traded for him. I think it was.
Because he's been in the minors all year, so you can still make those minor league trades.
Yeah, so we got a speedy outfielder who
we already had one. We already had a speedy outfielder who,
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah, we traded from 13 hours ago.
Oh, damn.
Good timing there.
I don't want to see Malik Smith in the big leagues. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't want him starting.
He also he's fast. You want to know a fast guy that can't play defense? Alex Smith is not a good defensive outfielder. Even though he's got
that's what I was saying. Like he's probably not a good center fielder. He's a 588 OPS in AAA this year. So that's what we're getting.
Clear last guy on like a playoff roster where you just need to have.
Oh yeah, he's the speed guy. He's the Terrence Gore. He's the guy that
perfect example. That's exactly what. Yeah. And did he get? Because I think I remember the Cubs wild card game from that year where Terrence Gore pinch ran and he got stuck in the game and he had to hit in the 9th inning or something.
He was the last out of the game.
Yeah.
Against Colorado in the wild card game.
Yeah.
If the Jays get in the playoffs, Malik Smith is going to be our last at bat. That's what's going to have to happen.
Oh God,
he'll pop up to third base in the game.
Be infuriating. So we have the Springer injury. Apparently he's day to day. We'll see how that goes. But to lose that game in that fashion after losing the Friday game, the Jays and the Mariners are tied, but the Jays don't have the tiebreaker now in the Mariners. And now you're legitimately in a fight with the Mariners, even though you're 4.5 games back of the teams that matter in the Red Sox and the A's.
Yankees.
Do you know what I mean? That's too. Actually, let me pull this up. Pull the wild card standings up. Yeah, the Yankees. Well, you're two games back of the Yanks, but you're 4.5 back of Boston, and you're 4.5, 5.5 back of Oakland because they have games in hand. This is a problem. It's something that can be made up, but what I've been saying for the last few weeks is you're running out of time, so you can't lose these series, and this is why you can't lose these series. You're going to have to leapfrog another team. That's not easy to do because here's the thing: even if the Jays do rip off 1 million wins, now you got to hope. Say they go they're winning at a 70% clip. You also now have to hope that the Red Sox, the Yankees, and the A's, now the Mariners, all of them have to play poorly when you get hot. And the more teams you stick in front of you, the harder that's going to be because it's out of your hands. You have to rely on these other teams losing while you win to try to catch them.
Well, that's the spot they were in. They kind of on themselves, kind of with bad luck and injuries, but they were behind. So they had so little margin for error during this period of time. And now it's even smaller after losing to this week, struggling against winnable teams, beatable teams. And now the schedule is it's going to get tougher. So
yeah, and
the Red Sox have the easiest schedule all day.
I'm not 100%.
Yeah,
I know they had a lot of their easy games early. Then were supposed to have a tough stretch in the middle, which is when they started losing games again. And now I think they got a bunch of Orioles. I don't think they play the Tigers anymore, but I think they got a bunch more Orioles.
I think everyone in the AL East plays the Orioles at least 2 more series. It feels like
that's not good. That's not good.
Yeah, I don't even want to play the Tigers. The Tigers are
the Tigers are sneaky good. That's the problem. Well, and here's the thing: the Jays lose to the Mariners. They split the series against the Angels. You can't just go into this being like, oh yeah, well they'll pump the Nats and then they'll pump the Tigers and then see what happens against Chicago. You can't go in expecting that because they've just fumbled it again.
By the way, what reliever on our team is going to give up Miggy's 500th home run?
Why'd you have to
I think he's one away, right?
That's probably going to be a thing.
You think it's going to take that long? He might do it today.
Wait, so how many games do they have before that? 3 or 4?
We don't play him until the 20th.
Yeah, because there's the off day Monday, the 2 Nats games, then an off day, and then the Tiger series starts.
I feel like it'd be poetic if it waited for us, but
Robbie Ray to do it.
That's also probably a big reason why they're not putting Springer in the IL immediately is because you have those off days where you're hoping, okay, maybe he just misses the Nats series and maybe he's back, but
it seems like deja vu, man.
And here's the thing: it'd be a little different if this team had built up any equity with explaining injuries. They very much have not. There's no reason to actually take them at their word because it's been wrong so often.
Yeah, embarrassingly wrong on multiple occasions.
Did you guys see what Hash did yesterday?
No.
6 innings of 1 hit. I don't know how many hits he gave up, but it was 6 innings shutout ball in Buffalo, and then Pearson had a 1 inning shutout ball. So let's throw a positive out there. New starter Thomas Hatch, apparently. We got to keep him stretched out.
And Nate Pearson needs to be in this bullpen because we kept talking about it he could be a weapon, but here's the thing: he has to be able to find the strike zone. But now you're at a point where it's desperation, and do you rush him back? Do you throw him in the
Who do you go to today? I guess Romano's your highest leverage guy, and then you have you got to.
Romano hasn't pitched, so he's probably your best option if you need a save, right?
Yeah.
Simber, I think, pitched 2 games in a row. I think Richard
and he's pitched, and I know for a fact Simber went over and in because they lean on him heavily because of how good he's been and the fact that he's done that in the past, been able to go multiple innings. Maybe you have to walk that back so you don't, burn the hell out of him. But if he's the only effective, this is again the problem of when you don't have enough guys that you trust. Richards, we talked about this. He's a good reliever, but the reason you were able to get him is because his issue is he gives up a home run every once in a while, and you saw it. You saw a pair of them. Well, actually, you've seen it this last little while, but again, he's still been good, and then every once in a while, he just allows that dinger that kind of ends it. And then Simber had been lights out, though. Simber had been ridiculous. He had been way better than I think anyone could have imagined when he came here. I think his whip with the Blue Jays before last night was 0.52. It was insane, and then he kind of started to correct. So you can't really blame that on him, but at the same time, this team needs these guys to keep outperforming and being at these weird, insane levels just to essentially be able to close a game down. Because again, it's infuriating staring at this Mariners team who doesn't look like a good baseball team, but they win the close games. And the Blue Jays just seem to not be able to this year.
Well, the Jays also have to score runs. They had the 10-run game last week against the Angels. They didn't score more than 3 in any of their other games.
I said it last week. We had the same situation where it's like it feels like they explode and they'll just have a game or two they take off. And I understand that's pretty normal in baseball, but like when you don't have a bullpen you can trust, when your stars are always putting you in the game, you need to be more consistent in that approach. And it's like it just feels like I don't know if Vladdy started to correct himself, but it felt like he was giving away a lot of at bats. There was other guys who were kind of scuffling too, but
Vladdy. One thing I'll bring up about Vladdy is I know there was already some dumb takes about like, oh, well, he's back in Toronto and he sucks again. It's like, guys, have you not seen what he's done all season? Also, he's still 21 and, full-grown men, big leaguers, get tired in August. There's a reason it's called the dog days. You know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of how it is. Guys go through slumps in August because they're physically tired, and that's what it looked like with Vladdy. Honestly, if you looked at Vladdy, it didn't look like he was a different player. It looked like he was tired. And because he was tired, he was pressing harder, trying to, you know what I mean? He's trying to swing hard. He's trying to do all these things to generate a little bit more bat speed because you know what I mean? Like, to him, it's not feeling the same. It's not looking the same. Like, I know he had some singles where he did sting them, but he wasn't getting a lot of that crazy exit velo. So I think it was just, he was tired and he's started, like, they've given him some days off. They've kind of managed him, had him DH.
And he'll have 2 off days this week too.
Exactly. Which is
huge. What makes it more noticeable is because defensively he was starting to struggle a bit, which is what you can tell, like when you're struggling at the plate and you're kind of tired there, like it doesn't just change in the field, like you kind of just carry that over. So
exactly, that's the thing. Like I'm not worried about him. Like I'm very doom and gloom about a lot of parts of this team. Vladdy is not one of them. He's fine. He's going to be fine. He's arrived. He's what everyone said he was going to be. And this is just what happens in a 162 game season, specifically in August.
Especially a guy who played in the All-Star game, didn't really get a break.
Exactly.
You know who else struggled a little bit after the All-Star break? Shohei Ohtani, but I don't hear anybody talking about it. He struggled a lot. But he's still hitting a home run every once in a while.
Do you think, like, going forward with Vladdy next season, like, because he played, like, what, 90 games in a row, started the season before he had an off day? Something in that range.
It might have even been, like, it was old. Yeah, now that I think about it, it was a ton.
So would you, like, next year be more focused on making him take an off day every couple of weeks? And
honestly, he's young, so no. I like when I say tired, I don't even mean it like in a way of like they've ground him into the dirt. It's more of this is just the thing that happens in baseball. Like this is what happens in August. Like we've all watched baseball long enough, you know what I mean? Like this just happens with guys in a season this long. That's such a grind. And then someone brought it up. I can't remember who brought it up actually, but I think it was a former big leaguer. Like there was an interview I was listening to. Oh, it was the Aussie dude who does the Mariners games. He was on a Toronto radio station basically talking about it. He's like, listen, think about it in August. Sometimes you fly into a place, you get no sleep because you get in at like 5 a.m. You're jet lagged because now you're on the West Coast, like something that happened this week, which I'm not going to give them any credit because you have to deal with it because teams deal with it. Good teams win these games anyways. But you can see why Vladdy would be tired potentially if you have all of these flights, you're playing all of these games, and then at the same time, think about how hot it is at some of these cities in August. You know what I mean? Like it's just that's the way it is. These guys, it's the dog days of summer, and Vladdy was getting a little tired. And then, the only positive last night is I know they were all singles, but he had 3 hits. And that could be enough to get Vladdy going again.
It seems like he's been hitting the ball hard the last few days. It was just earlier in the weekend last week where it was like, oh my God. I think in Toronto it was also partly him pressing to try to be that guy.
They were back in exactly to put on a show because Vladdy likes to do that. Like you can tell, like he's that type of guy. Like he likes to rise to the moment. He likes to be the center of attention. And you could tell he wanted to hit like a 500-foot digger just to be like, yeah, we're back. And I am still. It was also wild, like in that series, because there was some serious 2015 vibes, like Josh Donaldson, Mike Trout, that MVP race, and it was like, oh man, Shohei Ohtani and Vlad, and could one of them really pull away here? And it's like, yeah, I guess Shohei had the good pitching performance, but he didn't really do much at the plate. Like, yeah, he had 3 hits and they were all doubles, but
he hit the home
one
run.
of them was a dinger. Yeah, he had the one dinger. They were all extra base hits, but he was like 3 for 13.
Also struck out with the game on the line, 9th inning.
But no, I kind of had the feel like, oh man, maybe we're going to see either Vladdy or Shohei really run away with the MVP race, and actually neither of them did. Still very much.
Well, Shohei was already running away.
The betting odds are already, it's over. Ohtani's
well, he's got 38 dingers and he's pitching like
39 now. He got one last night.
Right? So yeah, exactly. Like Shohei's the MVP. But it almost felt like maybe you could get, like, if someone had a special series, it would build that type of momentum. Because that's what happened with the Jays and Donaldson, is Donaldson and Trout go head-to-head. Trout had been dealing with some kind of rib injury and was on a little bit of a cold streak. And Donaldson hit like 6 home runs in the series, and everyone, yeah, that's the MVP. That's the guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Today's game, pull this up. So we're recording Sunday morning.
The game I was the most nervous about, which we have to win now.
That was the thing, exactly. Like Logan Gilbert, I don't know how many people have been following him. Talking about top prospects with the Mariners, he came up in his first couple starts, because if you look at his numbers, you're like, oh, his ERA is 4.05. His first couple starts, he got absolutely bombed, and he has been everything that everyone said he was going to be since. This is not going to be an easy game. This is a guy.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, I was just saying, it's kind of like we played Tristan McKenzie a couple weeks ago, where it's like, oh, his numbers stink, but it's like you've got to watch a little closer. The guy's very talented, and he's had a couple of blow-up spots. So
exactly, this is a young guy, great stuff, who's supposed to be like the future ace of this Mariners rotation, and we've seen how the Jays do with guys that they haven't seen a lot of. Oh, yeah. That has been an issue sometimes. Like that. Look at Eli Morgan. You know what I mean? Like this is a thing that happens sometimes. And again, you bring up Tristan McKenzie, and that's a great one, because it's like you look at his numbers and you're like, oh, he's not that good. But if you watch Tristan McKenzie, you're like, well, there's a reason this guy was a top prospect. Look at that curveball. Like he throws in the upper nine. Like Logan Gilbert has all the tools. So this is not like, and again, you have Steven Matz going, who's been better of late, but this is what happens when you give games away, and you have to start relying on the back end of the rotation to win, because you didn't get it done earlier in the week. This is the cascade effect of this. That's how this works in the playoff race. You know what I mean? You can't give games away. When you start giving games away, every game becomes a must-win.
Absolutely.
I just want them to be in contention when I see them Labor Day weekend. We're all going, and I really hope it's not like a situation where we're 8.5 back and we're like, well, if we sweep the A's and then we have a bunch of other things. Like, I want it to be a real feel of like what happened last series in Toronto, where it felt like every game was a playoff game and we were all in. So hopefully they bounce back this week. They do have like 5 games. If they sweep this week, we're talking a different tune right now, but they really need to fucking win this next week, sweep this next week almost.
And they need to start getting lucky, because now you're at a point where you need the other teams to start losing. Like, yeah, you can technically wait into September, but that, like, you need people to lose. You can't have the A's beat a team by 20 runs. You can't have the Red Sox or I think it was the Red Sox put up 20 and the A's put up 7. It was something insane like that. Well, the Jays are losing. You're just looking at these scores being like, okay, these are the teams that you're trying to chase down, and you can't scratch one across the plate, and they're obliterating teams. Like, it was not a good feeling this week.
By the way, Tony, how upset are you that Joey Gallo is just feels like he's had a lot of big moments already? You were all in on
could have been nice in our lineup, or I'd like him playing in left field. That'd be pretty nice. I mean, Barrios is good. 2 out of 3 good starts. I mean, we could have had both, right? We could have if we wanted to, but I don't know what they wanted. Like, it could have been a situation where the Rangers are like, we want Groshans, we want everybody.
Yeah.
Sometimes having a good farm fucks you in that way, because they'll ask for the better prospects from another team, and they're not as good. But like when they see your farm, it's like, all right, give us your 4th best guy. It's like, well, that's better than the fucking guy.
That's still better than exactly everyone you got in the other offer. So no, we're not giving you insert name of prospect here. You know what I mean? It just
like the Yankees guys who they traded weren't even that great, but like I think
Yankees
they were
never trade anyone who's good, like any of their good prospects ever. Basically,
they let him go.
He wasn't a prospect.
That was risky.
The only good like the guy who was a top prospect that they traded was actually who was the pitcher? Was it Sheffield?
Justice Sheffield.
Mariners.
Justice Sheffield to the Mariners for Paxton. That's the only time I remember them trading an actual top prospect, because Brian Cashman doesn't relent. He doesn't trade his top prospects, and the Yankees still always acquire people.
Yeah.
But they've missed out on a lot of guys too, because they've been too stingy at times.
And they wouldn't give up the best of the best, which some of those guys didn't actually turn out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They, like, all of the times they could have traded Clint Frazier for things.
Like Garrett, they could have they traded for Garrett Cole a few years ago. Like, instead of waiting to sign him as a free agent, we might be talking about the Yankees a lot differently. But whatever.
Well, who knows if he doesn't go to Houston and doesn't use Spider Tack? Maybe he doesn't get this massive contract with the Yankees.
Yeah, it's it's a cycle. It's all one universe, as Mike Wilner would say. You can't just change one thing.
Who says we're having a decent road trip?
Yeah, we're doing great.
Told me that, I
couldn't. Great, Mike.
3-4. That's okay.
At this point of the year, we're okay with mediocrity.
You know what that is? That's toxic positivity. You know, everyone talks about like toxic traits. Like that is just being stupid. That's trying to convince someone that the sky is purple. You know what I mean? Like, you're telling me this is good, that this is acceptable to lose the teams that are supposed to be worse than you. One's like, specifically with the Mariners, one that's now ahead of you in the wild card race. Like that, give me a break. It's been a good road trip. You can't, don't give me that crap.
I don't want to misquote him. He said something about if they win today, they still have a chance to win the road trip. It's not that bad going to the West Coast, and
if it was May, it'd be like, okay, whatever. But we're
don't
like chasing all.
Spit on my cupcake and call it frosting. Okay, that's essentially what Wilner's doing there, is trying to be like, I'm smarter than you because it's actually not that bad. And it's like, no, shut up, Mike. What are they going to do? Run the table in the next 5 games? Like, you're assuming other things are going to happen in the same way you're making fun of people for assuming everything has gone to hell and they're not making the playoffs. It's like, Mike, you're now assuming that of course they're going to make the playoffs because they have all of this time and they could win all of these games. They could lose all of these games too. Like, let's not get into this thought experiment where you just try to go high and mighty over people.
And we've already talked about this too, about like, oh, it's fine, they don't make it. We've discussed this ad nauseum. We've had things happen this year. It's gonna be hard to repeat. Robbie Ray's gonna be hard to repeat next year. Even if we do re-sign, give
hopefully,
it's gonna be tough to recapture what this rotation is, to get a Marcus Semien type. Like, those aren't guys that are easy to replace.
That's the thing. We've gone over that a whole bunch. Exactly, the special seasons that they're getting out of certain guys. The whole idea was to take advantage of it now, to take advantage of what you had in front of you. And it feels like things are starting to slip through their fingers. And again, there's plenty of time left, and it's 4.5 games, and there's still, 3 weeks, or there's still half of August. There's still all of September. There is time, but there's not much of it. And you cannot keep because we've been saying you can't drop series. And here's the thing, they just did. And an important one against the team that's now, because you've lost them, that's now ahead of you.
It's not over, but it feels like, Don Henley's Boys of Summer. I feel like that song's starting in the background. Everyone's starting to wrap up. Like, we got to, if this week goes wrong, I think I'm going to be fully on the, okay. Not expecting to do much in September, but.
That's the thing. Like, not only do they have to win these series, like, you got to win both games against the Nat. Like, you almost have to sweep the Tigers and the Nationals, and that's not easy to do. You don't just sweep teams. Even bad teams will win 1 out of 3. That's what happens a lot of times. So,
well, the Nationals literally they've quit on. It's like them and the Cubs, as soon as the deadline happened, have just
sold everyone. Everything that wasn't nailed down got traded, which is the smart thing to do.
And they've lost 6 in a row going into today. So. That's where they're at.
Oh, the Nationals are a bad team. I'm not saying that they're not, but here's the thing. They have to beat them, and you can't just assume they're going to with the way that it's been. Like, it has to happen now. And again, like, the extra days of rest will be good for Ryu because he's always better on extra rest. Like, there's a lot of positives about the extra days and blah, 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 blah. It's just really hard to actually focus on the positives. When Springer gets hurt and you get just shit pumped by the Mariners. It's just, that's the reality. You know what I mean? It's not, that's why this podcast is in this form instead of us breaking down every game, because it just got to the point where it's just like,
this was more just like visceral, kind of on the surface.
This was a necessary event, I think, for all of us, because it was very upsetting, talking about how it's, hey, they're building, it's happening, and it's not. So
Oh, we need one positive. Alek Manoah had another excellent start this week.
He's been
11 Ks, just electric.
Tied to Jay's rookie record. That's another thing that we have to talk about in terms of special seasons. Who knows what you're going to get next year? Because he could just get better, but it's baseball. You don't know. He could even get injured.
How many rookies have we seen come up and have great first years?
Exactly. Not to mention, this is what we expected from Pearson, and we didn't get it. But then all of a sudden, the guy who hasn't pitched above A ball steps in and gives it to you. Like, you need to take advantage of these things. You do, because this stuff is not stuff that happens every year for every team. So to have so many things, because that is true, for have so many things fall in place where it's like, look how good Robbie Ray is. Look how good. How many times do those 1 year deals actually work? And you have two of them that you hit out of the ballpark. You have one of your prospects playing out of his mind, and he's never pitched above A ball. Like, well, I guess he pitched at AAA at the beginning of the season. He hadn't pitched above A ball before this season. Like, for everything to go right, for this to still feel like everything's going wrong, like, that's the weird season it's been for the Blue Jays. Because, again, we always talk about how good their offense is and how fun it is, and they keep losing these close games.
Yeah. It's just we always think the bad stuff will be fine next year and the good stuff's going to stay exactly the same. But
exactly, and that's it. Everything it's ever changing. So the bad could be good next year, but then you could have guys that just aren't, like, they just have down years, because that's what happens in sports in general, but specifically baseball.
Young pitchers, you never know how things are going to go. It's not always linear with their development.
Hell, look at the dude from the Diamondbacks who threw a no-hitter in his debut, and he does it against the Padres.
He was a Rule 5 pick, yeah. Nope.
Yeah, like, he's the first guy in his first start to throw a no-hitter since 1958. Like, baseball things, I always say this, Philip Umber threw a perfect game. Yeah. Okay? Dallas Braden threw a perfect game. Baseball is weird. It's why I love baseball. But at the same time, you need to take advantage of these moments like this, of these performances, of guys having these out of their mind seasons. You have to take advantage of it. And again, we've been very negative. There is still plenty of opportunity for this Jays team to get in the playoffs, to get really hot. Like, we've seen tons of teams get really hot in September that we thought were left for. I know this is pretty random. Remember that Rockies team that went like 27-2? Like, things happen in baseball.
Of course I remember.
You're talking to the Troy Tulowitzki.
Here's the thing. I was about to say, that was basically, like, I was a kid, and that was Troy Tulowitzki's rookie season, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is the greatest baseball player on the face of the planet. And I know Tony's probably the only person on the planet who's a bigger Troy Tulowitzki fan than me. So, like these things do happen. They can happen, but you can't rely on them. You need to start making your own luck, kind of thing. You need to start doing these things. You need to start winning games.
Brad Hopp, Garrett Atkins, Jeff Francis. I could go on all day about the 2007 Rockies. Yes.
Yeah, Jeff Francis is from BC. That was another awesome part about that, is he had such a good season. You had Tulo and the debut. Although as a Jays fan, you're like, oh yes, Troy Tulowitzki,
Willie Taveras.
Oh my God, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah, and then
they
just
Matt Halliday. He went on that insane streak where he was, during that winning streak, I think he hit like 400 with he hit like 20 bombs in September. Well, it wasn't 20, but he hit like 15 bombs in September. Like, it was insane.
And they won like almost all of their games where he hit a home run. It was something crazy like that.
It was.
And they ran out of gas in the World Series, but
because they actually had the layoff. It was the first time where they didn't just keep playing game after game after game after game after game.
They did. They had like a week off. Yeah.
Because they swept and the Sox went. Because it was the Red Sox, right?
Yeah, the Red Sox went 7 with Cleveland in the ALCS. JD Drew hit the grand slam.
That was a wild. Remember Travis Hafner when he was playing for the okay, before we get down like the wild thing of names of guys we just start remembering and reminiscing. Is there anything else you boys wanted to kind of tie a bow on this shitty week? Is there anything that you always wanted to highlight?
I want to say, still summer. Everyone's trying to wish it away, end of August. The Blues are still alive. We got the dog shit teams coming up, and then we come back home. We don't lose at home anymore. The Jays are just not going to lose at home. That's what I've decided.
You say that now.
I decided right now, Anthony. We're just not going to lose at home anymore.
Anthony also said that the Blue Jays didn't walk the bases loaded to lose games.
That, by the way, has really pissed me off because I think Tony said it on camera where he's like, "When the fuck would walk the bases loaded?" We've done it like 3 times since.
I haven't seen that in person. That's what I was saying. At the game.
Oh, okay. That was, oh god, that was funny because it's like as you said that, I remember staring into the camera and being like, they did that this year, multiple times. Yeah. Tyler Chatwood, but yeah, and then to have it happen again, oh god. Before I keep going down the spiral of bad things, we will say that they are playing bad teams. They still have the chance this afternoon to take a game from the Mariners, which you have to win this game. You can't get swept by the Mariners here. And then you have to go ahead and take care of business. The Washington Nationals are a bad baseball team. You have to put the wood to them. Okay? Me and Theo were talking about this. As we're United fans, we wanted to see them put the wood to Leeds. And what happened yesterday? They won 5-1. The Blue Jays need to start doing this. They need to start beating teams down.
Walk Juan Soto every single time. Don't pitch to him.
He's the only. Oh God! Watch. You know what's going to happen? Carter Kieboom's going to explode. He's finally going to find his power stroke against the Blue Jays. But I will stop being this negative.
Well, I hope not.
Again, they're playing bad teams. It's time to take advantage. It's just there's not much else to say. This week sucked. There's no way around it. It sucked, and they need to turn it around and get more games in the win column.
Yes.
Should we wrap it up there, boys, or do you want to?
Let's end it right now.
Before we go down another thing of players that people probably don't remember, but they bring back great memories.
Blue Jays bullpen.
Oh God, don't. Was Jeremy Accardo in 2000? No, that was like
that was after.
That was like 2001. Jeremy Accardo. Anyways, we'll wrap this up. This has been another episode of the Toronto Untilt Blue Jays podcast. I'm Steve Artibello with Anthony Harris and Theo Giordano. You can find our website, TorontoUntilt.com. You can find us on Twitter at Toronto Untilt. You can find the video of this podcast at our YouTube, Toronto Untilt. And of course, you can find the audio anywhere you listen to podcasts. That's Spotify, Google, Apple, Anchor, Breaker, Bleaker, all the things. Like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. Dear God, they just need to win this week.